So now in step 5, I'm assuming that you have ArcGIS Pro open, you're logged in, and I'm going to start a new project with a blank map template. And I'm going to save it in my CTemp folder that you've seen before. I'll hit OK. And one advantage of saving your project in the folder where you downloaded all the data sets is everything's going to be there for you. So for example, if I go in my catalog view and look at my home folder of the project, there's my data sets I've already downloaded. So as per step 5, I'm going to run a query to only select counties from New York. And the way I'm going to do that is, here's that shapefile I downloaded and unzipped in a previous step. I'm going to bring it over into the map. And when you look at it, it's all of the counties for the United States. I'm only interested in the counties for New York State. If you're not from New York State, it's located about here. And so what we're going to do is an attribute query to select only the counties from New York. And to do that, I'm going to right click on that layer, attribute table. And we're going to use this column here, the state FP. Now, if you didn't know what the state FP was, you can simply click on one of the shapes. And the state FP for New York is 36, and it's just the alphabetical ranking of it. So we're going to do select by attributes, a new selection, the new expression, create a new expression, and it's nicely, it auto populates for you. So there's what it looks like using the clause builder. There's what the SQL looks like if you're interested in that. Everything's valid. I hit apply. As you can see, the map behind this now, everything turned blue. If I highlight the selected records, there's only 62 of them, which is good. All 62 counties of New York. Okay, so moving on to step 6, we're now going to export the counties we just selected in step 5 into a new feature class. And you'll find that'll just make things a lot easier in terms of working with a subset of these counties. So to do that, it's pretty easy. I'm going to right click, Data, Export Features. And in this dialog, you can see it's already going to go into the default file geodatabase of your project. And I'm going to call this feature class New York Counties. And just keep in mind, because I have records selected, it's only going to export what I've selected. So if you don't have blue or whatever color you use for selection showing up, this may not work correctly. We'll verify that though. So I hit OK. And I'm going to turn off the layer that I downloaded from the US Census Bureau, and it worked great. You can see now that I only have the counties for New York as shown in blue here on the screen. And I can actually take that shapefile right out of there so my project doesn't get messy. And if I look inside my file geodatabase, there it is. It's its own, what they call a standalone feature class inside the file geodatabase. Okay, so let's move on now to step 7. Let's do a table join of those indicator data sets we did in step 4 onto the counties that we've now established in our project. And if everything was set up correctly, it's pretty easy to do a join. And to do that, I'm going to go in my folder where I processed the CSV file, and that's why I renamed it 5-year EDU. And I'm going to bring that over. and it shows up as a standalone table. And to check to make sure it's working correctly, I'm going to right click and open it. And it looks good. I have 62 records. I've got my GeoID column and my name column. And there's my data that I got from the Census Bureau. I have the total number of population and the high school levels. And if you've never done a table join, it's pretty easy. And check out the link here if you want more information about the concepts of table joins, even though I did talk about it in the beginning of the video. Before we do the join too, let's just go over the basic concept again of how a join works. If I open the attribute table of New York counties, and I'm going to pull that table right out of there. And put it side by side. Notice that in this column, we have from the data from the Census Bureau has the GeoID, and the same data set from the Census Bureau also has the AFF GeoID. And those are the values that are in common between them. Especially, you could use the name, but it's better to use the AFGeoID in this case. If you were to right click on the name and do sort ascending, you'll see Albany, Allegheny, and so forth. So these are the fields in common between these two tables that we'll use for the join. So to do the join, I'm going to right click on New York counties, select Add Join, and I'll use AFF GeoID. And you can see here, it knows sort of automatically to use the GeoID column from the CSV file. Validate, everything looks good there. This is what you want. 62, the input has 62 and the join has 62. And that's that one-to-one relationship you might remember from the earlier videos in the series here. So I'll hit OK. And with that, when I right click now on the attribute table of New York counties, here's that US Census indicator data that I brought over. And this is really one of the most core things of GIS. Finding a reference data set like the counties, the shapefile, joining another data set in. And now with that, I can do things with those data sets. I can do analysis. So as one example, I want to make a quick thematic map that I'll use later in the exercise just to give me a visual representation of the percentage of population in a county that has at least a high school degree. Of course, always save your work. To do that, I right click on New York counties, go to Symbology, and I'll do graduated colors. And my field is going to be high school. And I'm going to normalize it by population. And that gives me a sort of a equal representation of the situation. Because if I use just the raw counts, that's not going to really be a good way to compare between things. And if you're not familiar with New York State, for example, I live here. This is Monroe County, where it has a lower percentage of high school population compared to other urban centers. New York City is down here and so forth. And so this will be like our visual indicator of education levels. Hi, this is Brian Tomaszewski. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and share this video. Also, please consider subscribing to this channel and clicking the notification icon to stay up to date on new videos from this channel. Thanks for watching.